everybody. Leah Harlann here. Long time no see. I hope you've all been well. I will tell you a little more about my absence in probably my next vlog video, but until then, I wanted to talk about the topic of this video, which is the mid-year freakout tag. And yes, I'm a little bit late on the mid-year freakout tag too, but I'm going to do my best to go over all the questions, and I might even make a second version of this video that separately goes over webtoons I've been reading this year, because my reading went down in late spring and early summer, but my webtoon reading shot way up. And I've always been reading a lot of webtoons, so I thought it might have warranted a separate video. Anyway, let's get started on the book mid-year freakout tag. All of the questions are listed in the description in case you lose track of where I am. So, the first question, best book you've read so far in 2023. The best one I've read actually is one that a lot of people were going on about last year, which is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I fell in love with it. I've talked about it in a previous rapid fire reviews video, so feel free to check it out if you want. But suffice to say, I wouldn't say this year has been like particularly fantastic or disappointing overall, at least so far, but this one really stood out. Legendborn has really stood out, and I can't wait to get to the sequel, Bloodmarked, since that is already out there. The best sequel I've read so far in 2023 is Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. That is, of course, the third and final book in the Devabad trilogy. And I had started this trilogy late in 2022 and finished Empire of Gold in January. I have also gone over the whole Devabad trilogy in a previous rapid fire reviews video if you'd like to check out my full thoughts. But suffice to say, I fell in love with this series, and I was extremely excited to pick up the adventures of Amina al-Sarafi by the same author, which came out in February, and I loved that book as well. I have not provided my thoughts on that one yet so far, though, so perhaps you'll hear me talk about it more in an upcoming video. Number 3, a new release that you haven't read yet, but want to. Speaking of authors that I love and will pick up just about anything they write nowadays, the answer to this prompt is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I loved the Poppy War trilogy, and I absolutely tore through Babel. And Yellowface was one that I was anticipating quite excitedly. But it came out in late April, and I did order the Illumicrate special edition, but unfortunately, school was really, really wearing on me at the time, and I kind of fell into a slump combined with burnout after that, so I still haven't gotten a chance to read Yellowface, though I've heard lots of good things. So I definitely can't wait to get to that one soon. I'm hoping to read it next month during August. Number 4, the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. My initial answer would have originally been Heavenly Tyrant by Xiran J. Zhao, the sequel to Iron Widow, but that book has been delayed to 2024. So my new answer is He Who Drowned the World by Shelley Parker Chan. This is the sequel to She Who Became the Sun, which I read last year, and I quite loved. Also talk about that one in a prior rapid fire reviews video. And there are actually a special edition set of these books coming from Broken Binding, and I really, really, really hope, I have my fingers crossed, let's see if I can do it, yep, fingers crossed, that I managed to snag the special edition from Broken Binding when General Sale opens up at the end of the month. The next one on the list, my biggest disappointment. Now, unfortunately, this one is Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. It's really unfortunate because I have been extra interested in checking out fantasy by authors of color, but also featuring settings that are more diverse than just your typical sort of medieval European style of setting. And so I was really, really interested and had kind of high hopes for this one because I'd heard that it was all about not just certain African cultural mythologies, but Mami Wata, a sort of mermaid type mythological creature. And I love mermaids. And unfortunately, I think I got about 40% of the way through this book and just nothing was really interesting me. And the characters weren't really drawing me in. I couldn't really vibe with like their motivations weren't coming through. I didn't really understand their intensity behind like certain things they were doing and thinking, and there was like no chemistry that I could read between the main pairing. So I just ended up putting that one down. And I do have some other books with similar mythology inspirations and settings, such as The Children of Blood and Bone, that I'm hoping to get to. So it's, just the biggest disappointment. But unfortunately, that's just how it happens. That's just how it goes sometimes. On the flip side, the biggest surprise read for this year was actually a book I had to read for class, and that is called Caste, The Origin of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. This is a nonfiction book, so very different from what you usually see me talk about in my rapid fire reviews videos, but I do talk about this book quite a lot in one of my vlogs. If I uploaded it, I'm not sure. Did I ever upload that vlog? I know I had at least talked about it briefly in my February vlog. I hope I went into more depth that time, but maybe I didn't get into it until the March vlog that I have since not. I just deleted that one, so because it was so outdated. Maybe I'll talk about it in my other vlog for a little bit. But I love Caste, and it was an incredibly eye-opening experience. It was very heavy. Fair warning, but I actually annotated it since I was reading it for class, and we had really, really wonderful, very serious conversations and discussion around this book during my class. I thoroughly enjoyed the experience, and I learned a lot from it. So highly recommend. I feel like this book should be required reading in schools nowadays, at least high school, but that might still be a bit early for the depth that this book gets into with certain history and politics and stuff, or political systems regarding America's history with slavery and racism. So on a lighter note, my favorite new author, this is an author that's new because of debut or just new to you, is Nevo. And that is exclusively because of her Singing Hills cycle, which is the series of novellas that she writes featuring the non-binary main character, a cleric named Chi, who kind of like wanders around in a nomadic way, gathering and archiving stories on behalf of the Singing Hills monastery that they were trained in. And I read all 3 novellas that are currently released earlier this year, and the 4th one, Mammoths at the Gates, does come out in September, and I have been quite fortunate as to receive a digital arc of the novella, so look forward to that video. I'm sure I'll be mentioning it at least at some point next month in August, or perhaps in early September, so that I can have plenty of great things to say about it before release. Number 8 is Newest Fictional Crush, and this was probably the hardest one for me because there hasn't really been any character amongst the books that I've been reading that I just really fell hard for. I've had a much easier time finding new crushes in all of the webtoons I've been reading, and perhaps that has the advantage of providing visuals. So definitely I'll have plenty to gush about in the webtoon version of this video. But I would have to say that the Newest Fictional Crush, if I really go off of most recent character that I just really, really loved, in the sense that like I wanted nothing but good things for him and I found him amazing and attractive and wonderful, is Dara Yavahush from the Devabad trilogy, or Dara for short. I really felt him pull at my heartstrings throughout the trilogy, especially in the final book, My Baby Boy. He went through so much, and I just want nothing but good things for him. Number 9, newest favorite character, that would be Gormla. I think that's how you say her name, from The Children of Gods and Fighting Men by Shauna Lawless. I'm still reading this book. I'm not quite done with it yet, but I have really loved the deep dive and very well thought out inspiration that draws from Irish and Celtic cultures and mythology. In this, it features the Tua de Danann, and it's a dual POV book. And I do love the other character's POV, Fodla, but Gormla is definitely my favorite. She is a older woman. She is a mother. She has ambition and she will scheme and she can navigate politics. And I love that. And she doesn't let this society and culture that's still very much male dominated, and she doesn't let like all of the things she went through before weigh her down or hold her back. She knows what she wants. She knows the future she wants to secure, and she has a lot of ideas and plans for how to get there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this book wraps up. And they already have the sequel announced. I'm not sure exactly when it comes out, definitely before the end of the year, I think. And so I hope that I don't have to wait too long once I finish this one before being able to dive into the sequel, because I already can tell I'm going to want to read it. Next is a book that made you cry. I wouldn't say this is hard. It's not like I have a difficult time crying while reading. I've cried loads of times while reading books, but I just haven't read that many this year that have made me cry so far. I think the one that got me to shed a few tears, nothing that's made me like ugly cry yet, but probably the one that's gotten the closest was Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. I have also mentioned this book in a previous Rapid Fire Reviews video. I read it during the Trans Rights Readathon back in March, and I thoroughly loved it and enjoyed it. I highly recommend this book. It's got the fantasy, it's got the sci-fi, it's got a little bit of the romance, it's got the feel goods, the emotions, the heartstring pulling. It's got music. It just has so many things that I love, and I really kind of want to go back and do an annotated read of this one, but I have a long list of books I want to do that for, so it may take a while to get back to this one. But definitely a book that made me cry at least a little bit. Next one, a book that made you happy. This one is actually a manga, which I am including in this video because the list of webtoons is already way too long to group manga in with them too. So the book that made me happy is a manga called Is Love the Answer by Isaki Uta. This is a book about a character discovering and navigating their sexual identity, that being asexual, if you couldn't tell from the cover. And I really valued it as it was probably one of the books, it was one of the stories with the closest to my own expression and experience as an asexual person that I have ever seen. A lot of other ace characters and ace rep, when I see them, are either already pretty aware and comfortable of their identity, and they usually like don't have a problem mentioning or explaining it to people, or at the very least, like the experience they have discovering themselves is pretty isolated from the people around them. But in this manga, Is Love the Answer, we see the much like messier and an interconnected experience and a lot of, reflection and looking back on the past and their history that I really enjoyed and that felt a lot more real and representative of my own experience. So I highly recommend this book. It's definitely a great one that explores questions about other kinds of identities too. And especially since the book takes place in Japan, you might find that the type of story it's telling and the character interactions and sort of struggles are different than the typical ace representation we see in other books, especially ones that have more like Western or modern settings. And then number 12, the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. I wish I could say this was a difficult decision, but it's really not. It was my Broken Binding Roots of Chaos set. This set is just so gorgeous, and I'm so glad that I was able to pick up the reprint set from the waitlist. I was on the waitlist for it. They're not signed, but that almost encourages me to hopefully attend a signing event someday with Samantha Shannon so that she can sign my absolutely gorgeous copies. I still need to read A Day of Fallen Night, but we won't talk about that in this video. And then the last question, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I've already mentioned Yellowface, of course, but a couple other ones. Oh wait, I guess I've mentioned all three of them at this point. Mammoth at the Gates, which is the next Singing Hills cycle novella from Nia Vo, and of course, Day of Fallen Night from Samantha Shannon. These are the top priorities that I really hope to get to before the end of the year. Of course, Day of Fallen Night is the most intimidating, being the biggest chonker on the list, but I really did enjoy Priory of the Orange Tree, so I really hope I can set aside some time, even though the fall semester will probably keep me fairly busy, to do some good intensive reading this fall and winter. But anyway, that wraps up this video. That's everything I wanted to talk about in the mid-year freakout tag. Feel free to let me know what your answers to any or all of these questions are in the comments. Do we share some answers from the list? And let me know if you are interested in the Webtoon edition of this video. I might bump it higher or lower on the priority list depending on if there's more interest in it. I do hope to do some more Webtoon specific content on my video in the near future, or on my channel in the future, because I do read a lot of Webtoons, and I've really exploded in that reading demographic this late spring and early summer. It really helped me when I was struggling with my slump and my burnout that wasn't letting me get through any of my physical books or even any e-books, like reading text. Webtoons are just really fantastic that way, and very easy to read on the phone compared to manga, which isn't formatted as well for phone screens. Anyway, that's all for this video. I hope you all do the YouTube things like liking the video, subscribing, leaving comments. If you want to leave an emoji, any sort of emoji would be fine and fun, of course, but perhaps a book emoji, since this is the first time I'm asking you all to do that, and this one, of course, covered a lot of books. I hope you all take care of yourselves and read something great, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.